So the new CVO Road Glide ST is unlike any other bagger that is on the road from any manufacturer, to be quite honest with you. And I had a chance to go out to Las Vegas and ride this thing in its natural habitat. And today I'm going to tell you everything that you need to know about it. So if you're considering upgrading to this bike or buying one outright or whatever the case may be, I'm going to tell you everything you need to know from front to back. And this includes pros and cons. Now, I am super appreciative to Harley for flying me out there to take a look at this motorcycle and of course ride it, but nothing changes here. I'm going to talk about the pros and the cons, and of course this is just my opinion, and I want to hear yours after the video. What do you like or what don't you like about the new CVO Road Glide ST? If you like what I do, consider subscribing. You could also join us on Patreon or join the channel right here and gain access to some pretty cool perks. Let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing that I want to talk about, of course, is the new design. But I'm only going to spend a little bit of time with this because I talked about it in my regular Road Glide review. But of everything, the fairing, the lights, the tank, the saddlebags, everything has been redesigned on this motorcycle. But it's not just redesigned. So when you look at the bikes now, what they wanted to do is design the entire thing where it all flows together. You'll see really cool contour lines. So let's take the teardrop style gas tank, right? It still looks like a teardrop tank, but they have a contoured lines on the top. The fairing, of course, has a bunch of awesome lines that really give the shark nose fairing a similar appearance, right? You still know that's a Road Glide, but it also looks way different than what they had previously. When you look at the engine, the way that sits up under the tank, they've taken up some more of that space there and just kind of made sure that everything from piece to piece flowed together. So of course we have the single headlight now, but it still looks like it has the appearance of a dual headlight. And then we have the W LED lighting that is underneath the single headlight. This is going to act as your turn signals, of course. We have the new redesigned bags, so they have more of a performance cut to them. So where everything before was slammed bagger and stretch saddlebags, now it's going to performance bagger. The fender section looks like a traditional CVO, but this change actually applies to all of the road and street glides. So you have two integrated tail lights, turn signals, all of that stuff, and there is not a single halogen bulb on this frickin' bike. Hallelujah, they have finally gotten away from it. And they've also gotten away from the bullet type of turn signals front and rear. That stuff is gone as well. Now we have the golden white pearl and we have the raven metallic. The red lettering on the tank, the red accents mixed with the black. Yeah, this thing looks freaking good. They both look good. I think I'd still go with that golden white pearl, but like I said, they both look really sharp. Now, of course, this is the 25th year of CVO, so we have special badging on the fairing there. So you have, of course, the eagle, and then we have the badging on the tank on the console, and then we have the Fast Johnny Pig on the left side cover. We also have a slightly redesigned windshield, a little bit more aerodynamic for the performance-centered ST. We have the high-performance Brembo brakes in the front, along with a new rotor design that, of course, is there to dissipate as much heat as possible because, again, this thing is built for the track. And then a new wheel design as well, and I really like these wheels better than the ones on the regular Road Glide. I think these wheels look absolutely awesome. 19 in the front, 18 in the rear. Now, we also have inverted front forks that are fully adjustable. So front and rear is fully adjustable on the ST model. And then on the rear, of course, we have the exposed reservoirs there. Talk more about that when we get to the riding part. We also have carbon fiber. So when you look at this bike, it's 838 pounds, but they shaved 25 pounds off of this bike compared to the 2024 CVO Road Glide. That's a huge difference, right? So 25 pounds lighter, they used a lighter gauge steel in the tank. You have a carbon fiber front fender, tank console, the tail cap behind the solo seat, and the end caps of the titanium slip-ons. Coming around to the inside of the fairing, we have the new screen. Now again, I talked about this in the regular Road Glide. I won't get into it too much here, but you have different appearances based on the ride modes, so rain, road, sport, and then we also have track modes on this bike. Again, I'll talk more about that here in a minute, but all of that stuff is included, and you have like 4 customizable options as well. Navigation, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, it's all built in now, so you don't need a separate WIM module in order to connect to your your Bluetooth in your helmet or anything like that. We also have a new 6-inch riser on the handlebars, and it was a super comfortable position for the most part. We also have an upgraded audio system. So the Rockford Fosgate 6¼ inch speakers in the fairing. You do not have speakers in the bags like you normally would on the CVOs though, because again, they're trying to save weight. So as far as how that Rockford Fosgate does with just the 2 front speakers at highway speeds, I don't know. I wasn't listening to music. We actually had Kyle Wyman there who had a lot of input into this motorcycle as well as far as the design and especially like the track modes. And so when he talked and he was telling us techniques, I just kind of shut up, listen, and then tried to apply those things once I got on the road course. One thing I will say is it definitely helped a lot. So I was super excited to learn some of those techniques. But as far as how the audio does at highway speeds, no idea there. Anybody that owns one of these may be able to tell us in the comment section. But again, you're just going to get the fronts, and they are bigger speakers, and of course more wattage, a bigger watt amp anyways. So they might do a pretty good job, but most likely you'll still probably have to upgrade that or at least put some bags in the speakers if you need more sound at highway speeds. We have new redesigned consoles on either side of the fairing. The whole fairing actually looks a little bit smaller. It's redesigned, it's cleaner looking. So you push them open, you can stick a GoPro down in there, a water bottle as we found out. So they're actually really useful, and you have USB Type-C now, so they've modernized all that, along with the switches on each one of the handlebars. So we have, all of our settings and our traction control, cruise control, that stuff on the left-hand side. And then, of course, on the right-hand side, that's our volume buttons, push to talk, and all that good stuff. Turn signals are in familiar spots. Now, the only thing I'll say about the switches here that I talked about in the regular review as well is they have like raised areas. So if you have smaller hands, you can kind of flick them over one way or the other so you don't have to break your grip. You also have an adjustable brake lever, which is really useful, to be honest with you, man. So no matter if you have bigger hands or smaller hands, you can bring that in or stretch it out. New 6-gallon tank. Talked about the console there, 25th anniversary of CVO, solo CVO seat, and then of course the redesigned bags. Now they're not only redesigned, but they actually have some more space on the inside of them as well. So that's a good thing, obviously, because if you're doing some touring, you want to be able to actually, store things in there. And so while they may have the appearance from the side of being smaller, once you get behind the motorcycle, you see they kind of stretch out just a little bit, or widen out just a little bit, I should say. And that all brings us to the engine. So last year, 2023, CVO, Road, and Street Glide, we had the 121 VVT. The VVT is good if you want max performance and horsepower, but you don't want to upgrade anything on the engine. You just want it all kind of done for you straight from the factory. Well, this one that's on the ST is actually a 121 high output. So not only is it going to give you, 145 foot-pounds of torque, 127 horsepower, which is insane out of this engine, but it also gives you the ability to upgrade as well. There's a new water cooling system. So as opposed to the old system, which was oil cooled or even the twin cooled, the coolant actually runs to the rear cylinder head first, which is where you're going to get most of the heat on the rider, and then it goes to the front, so it's designed to keep you cooler. It has a fan, of course, but that is pointed downwards, again, to keep it away from you and your passenger. And I think that leads us perfectly into how this motorcycle actually rode. So, like I said, I used some of the techniques that Kyle Wyman was talking about because he knows how to really maximize the performance out of these bikes. And one thing I will say just instantly is how nimble the bikes actually feel. Now, I've talked about this in the past, especially with like the Indian Challenger, which is a fairly nimble motorcycle, but this thing, the CVO Road Glide ST, just feels like it's on another level. Uh, Also, one thing that was impressive, because I was under the impression the track modes and your sport mode was going to give you obviously a better throttle response, but sometimes you get kind of that jerky response, at least in the Challengers and some other bikes that I've ridden in sport mode. But this was not the case. It was still super smooth. It was just obviously way more responsive. And so the track modes are actually going to take some of your safety features and dumb them down a little bit. So your cornering ABS, traction control, all of that stuff. You have track mode and then track mode plus. The plus is going to dumb that stuff down even more, giving you better control on the track. So it's a pretty cool system. And again, you have all of these different modes and customizable modes. So you can change things like engine braking and ABS and again, traction control and cornering ABS and just choose how you want that system to respond. And so, I'll have to spend some more time with it to really see how those customizable modes make a difference in the bike. But what I can say is, your regular mode to your sport mode, huge difference. Track mode, absolutely incredible. And this bike just, I felt so comfortable on it, man. I mean, when I came up to my first U-turn, I was like, oh God, here we go. They threw a U-turn in there, and it's probably because of Rob at Be the Boss of Your Motorcycle. That was everybody's guess. But it was good because, once I got in that U-turn, I felt super comfortable. I don't know how wide the U-turn was. I know it was probably 22, 24 feet, something like that. And I don't know. Y'all can be the judge of it. But I felt really comfortable on this thing. I felt comfortable going into the turns, trail braking and getting off of the corners. And I don't know, man. I had an incredible time on the bike, and I was comfortable on it too. Now, we rode for about 20 to 25 minutes at a time each session that we had, and then another group of riders would go. So it wasn't a really long time, but just super high concentration and just trying to do things as quickly as you can and obviously being safe at the same time. But my first time on a road course and my first time in Las Vegas and first time on this motorcycle, man, it just did just an incredible job, dude. I had a blast on this thing. And that comes full circle to the pros and cons. So, one of the biggest pros of this new motorcycle is the aesthetics of it. And we got time with the engineers, the design team, the race team. So we got all these different perspectives about what they were thinking when they put this stuff into this bike, and it makes you appreciate it even more. So again, we have a Road Glide, which when you look at it, if you know motorcycles, you see a Road Glide, but it looks so wildly different that in and of itself, just the aesthetic appeal to me personally is almost worth the upgrade. But then you have the 121 engine, which I'm a huge fan of. Again, I can't talk to how much better the cooling is and stop and go traffic, stuff like that. But it'd really be a shame to have this bike in stop and go traffic. The special badging and the bags and the lighting, everything combined, in my opinion, they hit a home run with this new design. So, and it didn't go up that much. I mean, CVOs are expensive. You're talking about, what, $44,000, somewhere in there. So they're expensive motorcycles, but even on the regular road and street glide and on the CVOs, they didn't go up in price. And that to me was pretty impressive because most of the time you're going to see things go up in price, not stay the same, or some could argue that it went down with all of the technology. Of course, you got your hill hold control, cornering, traction control, ABS, all of that, drag torque control, cornering, drag torque control, all of that stuff is included on the bike. So everything about it I almost liked. The only things I didn't necessarily like are some of the normal CVO things. So again, you don't get the rear speakers, and I get that there's a weight savings there. I just hate that you don't get it. You also don't get the ability to quickly lock and arm the motorcycle like you normally do. You got a standard barrel key that's on the key fob. Those are just some of the little things, that I wish were there. I would almost take like an extra 10 pounds on the bike. I can't see it affecting the motorcycle that much because this thing is just crazy fast with a bunch of torque and a ton of fun to ride. But again, I understand what they were trying to do. Overall, man, the motorcycle is absolutely beautiful. It rides incredible, and it was an overall incredible experience. And so I'm super grateful. While there's a couple things that I don't necessarily like, one more thing I wanted to mention: the Fast Johnny Pig. I know why they put him there. You know, obviously it's kind of a callback to tradition. 25 years of CVO. I would have left him off. The left hand side of the bike looks awesome. I just see that Fast Johnny Pig and I'm like, paint over it. You know, that's my first thought. But either way, you know, it's just little small things like that. And one more thing that kind of sucks about the bike before we wrap this up, the titanium slip-ons with the carbon fiber end caps look really awesome, but it's Screaming Eagle. So of course it's going to be EPA compliant. It's going to have noise reduction. It's just a shame that it looks so good, and you're probably going to end up taking it off the bike. So again, it's the little small things, but overall, I think they knocked it out of the park. And again, I'm super appreciative to have had this opportunity and get this thing in its natural habitat and in such a beautiful location. That's my opinion of it, man. I'd love to hear yours now. Let me know what you think about the new CVO Road Glide ST. Do you like it? Do you hate it? What don't you like, or what do you hate about it? Whatever your opinion is, leave those things down below. And again, if you like what I do, consider subscribing. You could also join us on Patreon or join the channel right here. Big thanks. See you in the next one. And as always, hold them down.